want to talk about this for a second because I did speak a little bit about it on Twitter, but this gentleman, Tyrus, the NWA champion, he said that he would essentially whoop his child's behind if they were to use specific pronouns. So I was talking about this on Twitter, and of course I got a bunch of people coming to me, well, you would be okay if a 6-year-old wanted a sex change then, wouldn't ya? Well, that's not what this guy is saying. He's just talking specifically about pronouns. So he, she, they. I personally believe that children under a certain age should not make lifelong decisions. Even body modifications, like getting your child's ears pierced. A baby, it just always seemed weird to me. My parents got my ears pierced when I was a baby, and I took I didn't want. So there's certain decisions a child shouldn't make. I completely agree with that, 100%, tenfold. But to say a child cannot express themselves without getting their ass whooped is just next level to me. I cannot get behind. I do not stand behind instilling fear in your children or using physical violence against your child. The same way you wouldn't beat up your parent or Joe at your grocery store to teach them a lesson. Just because you gave birth or had your child, made your child, and now you sort of entitlement that you have ownership over them. So because of that ownership, you're entitled to then put fear and essentially abuse them. If you put your hands on anybody to instill fear or to get a point across without using your words like an adult should, I just don't find that okay at all. So again, he's saying all people that use pronouns, he, she, they, them, all that, are the same type of people that have tattoos they may regret. Mr. Tyrus with the tattoos down here. They have blue hair, they have this hair, that hair. You know what? He's doing this for attention. I truly believe he believes all of this, but he knows the reaction he's going to get out of this and just being himself. People should be allowed to express themselves. I'm glad that he put this out there. I'm happy that he said this because I love when people tell on themselves. I love when people express themselves. I would rather him come out here and say, I will whoop my child for saying these things and put it out into the universe so it can be held and dealt with accordingly. I also want to say that this man is 6'7" and 375 pounds. You do not know your own strength. He must not if he thinks whooping a child is appropriate. When I was a young girl, I hung out with my brother and all of his friends. I thought I was a boy as much as I could at the tender age of 8. I cut my hair very short. Those earrings that my mom gave me, I actually ended up taking one out, so I only had one earring. All the girls were pretending to be the Spice Girls. I was pretending to be a Backstreet Boy. I was AJ, of course. But at that time, I wasn't fully developed, nor did I really get the concept of gender and sex and all that stuff. So I was just expressing myself and who I thought I was at that point, because at 8 years old, you really don't know who you are. So that being said, I'm not saying that you can't grow up and still struggle with gender identity. I'm not saying that at all. But there are times in people's lives where they may struggle, especially as a child, not knowing who they are, because you don't know who you are when you're 8 years old. So to say that you're going to whoop a child for expressing themselves or trying to figure that out, he's not saying anything about gender dysphoria. He's not saying anything about trans. This was specifically about pronouns. I don't understand that. If he doesn't like the way he raised his own children to this extent, that's on him. So I do want to preface this and end my video by saying trans people do exist. They are valid. That is not the point of my video, if that's how it came across. A sticky situation when it does come to children and how they proceed making lifelong decisions. That also being said, I do not believe in any sort of violence or using fear to teach your children about anything. That's just my opinion. I think it should be a lot of people's opinions. I'm also not here to tell you how to raise your kids, because that ain't none of my business.